JLR investigates. Come on in, everyone. Come on in. Oscar Pistorius. Got some breaking news, everyone, out of South Africa. South Africa news right now. Folks, he has been freed from prison. Oscar Pistorius, freed. He was serving 13 years in prison for the death of his girlfriend, Reeva. He has been released from prison early. I got a statement from prison officials. We're going to talk about this case, what's going on, give you up to speed on this. This happened in 2013, so this is like a 10-year case. He got freed early. And we're going to ask about your thoughts on this matter. I can't believe it seems like just yesterday with this case, right? It seems like just yesterday, but across the board, they've been releasing articles, Oscar Pistorius. And in case you guys are not familiar with this case, he is known as the Blade Runner. The Blade Runner, folks. And he has been granted parole. Come on in, everyone. We're going to talk. I'm going to read you a statement. Oscar Pistorius to be freed on parole in South Africa. Now, he's going to be freed in January, but he's being freed. Unless there's some sort of something at the last second where that can prevent him from being free. The thing I'm reading about is there was some sort of like a parole hearing, and even the family of Reeva didn't go to this hearing. They didn't even go to this hearing. So I'm going to get the statement out. Let me get everything in check here and give you guys the updated news on this particular case right now. Look, so this is a statement by the Department of Corrections. The Department of Corrections, Correctional Services in South Africa. Oscar Pistorius placed on parole. Placed on parole, folks. The Department of Correction Services, DCS, confirms parole placement for Mr. Oscar Leonard Carl Pistorius, effective from January 5th, 2024. He served 9 years out of a 13-year sentence. Mr. Pistorius was initially convicted of culpable homicide in 2014, but the case went through a number of appeals and it was eventually ratified to 13 years and 5 months in 2017. The parole placement decision was taken by the Correction Supervision and Parole Board, having assessed Mr. Pistorius' profile and other materials submitted to the purposes of parole consideration. Classified as a first-time offender with positive support, Mr. Oscar Pistorius' parole placement is in line with Section 673 of the Correctional Services Act. Section 73. So they're citing the reasons on his being paroled. Parole placement forms part of the total rehabilitation program in correcting offender behavior and may include continuation of programs aimed at reintegration in the system of community corrections. Mr. Pistorius will complete the remainder of the sentence in the system of community corrections and will be subject to supervision in compliance with parole conditions until his sentence expires. He got out early. I think it was like 9 years. 9 of 13. So, first off, a lot of people thought that the 13-year sentence was too light. If Oscar Pistorius did what he did in the United States of America, would he have gotten a 13-year sentence or would he have gotten more? There were some graphic details and juicy stuff in reference to this case, right? Let's read what Fox News just put out. New information, folks. You hear it first on JLR Investigates. Blade Runner Oscar Pistorius granted parole 10 years after killing girlfriend on Valentine's Day. This happened on Valentine's Day, folks. Pistorius fatally shot his supermodel girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp, through a bathroom door on Valentine's Day in 2013. This is a 10-year-old case. Rachel says, this rubs me the wrong way. Let's get some details. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what's going on, folks. Let's get some details on JLR Investigates. Former South African track star Oscar Pistorius has been granted parole more than 10 years after murdering his girlfriend, model Reeva Steenkamp. The Olympic athlete, 37, he's 37, who earned the nickname Blade Runner for the futuristic carbon fiber prosthetics he used for competitions, has been sentenced to 13 years and 5 months after he was convicted of murdering the TV reality star in the early morning hours of Valentine's Day 2013. On Friday, the Department of Correctional Services in South Africa granted him parole, effective January 5th. He will be subject to conditions including that he not leave the area of Pretoria. What is that called? Pretoria, where he is set to live without permission from authorities. So he can't leave the area, he can't travel. Parole is a lot different than probation, folks. But different countries have different ways of how they handle this stuff. Right? My gosh, look. Look when he was crying in court. Pistorius also will attend a program to deal with anger issues and will have to perform community service. I keep getting all these refreshing things. I got to get rid of this. Pistorius will also attend a program to deal with anger issues and will have to perform community service. Pistorius' parole conditions will be placed for 5 years, the Department of Corrections said. Serious offenders in South Africa must serve at least half of their sentence to be eligible for parole, which Pistorius has done. So he served half his sentence. Served half the sentence, at least. Pistorius testified at his murder trial that he killed Steenkamp by mistake. You think it was a mistake? Thinking she was a dangerous intruder hiding in his bathroom in the middle of the night when he fired 4 times through the door with his licensed 9mm pistol. Do you think that would have been self-defense or by, stand your ground in the United States? Or do you think there was something more to it? Prosecutors argue that Steenkamp, 29, had fled to the toilet cubicle during a late-night argument, and Pistorius killed her in a rage. So the prosecution says a different story. Pistorius was initially convicted of culpable homicide, a charge comparable to manslaughter in the United States, for killing Steenkamp. The conviction was eventually overturned, folks. The conviction was eventually overturned, and he was convicted of murder after an appeal by prosecutors. They also appealed against an initial sentence of 6 years for murder, and Pistorius was ultimately sentenced to 13 years and 5 months. So he originally only got 6 years. If that other sentence would have held, he would have been gone. He wouldn't even have had parole. The disabled athlete, the first to compete against able-bodied men, once was hailed as the most inspirational figure in sports. But that image was shattered when he fired 4 shots into the bathroom stall in his Pretoria home in an upscale gated community, killing Steenkamp, his girlfriend of 3 months. They were only together for 3 months. Only together for 3 months, folks. We've seen this image, lots of image. We've seen the image. Pistorius was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, with an abnormal that left him with a fibula bone in either of his legs. Without a fibula bone. So he didn't have a fibula bone in his lower legs. His legs were amputated before the knee when he was 11 months old. But his mother taught him that the disability was not an excuse to push him to participate in sports. And he was very inspirational, right? He was very inspirational because there's a lot of people out there that's, have disabilities. And he was looked upon as a hero in the world, as someone that you could be inspired off because he persevered even though he had the disabilities. Look at him in court. This was him in court. After obtaining his first carbon fiber prosthetic legs, Pistorius competed in the 2004 Paralympic Games in Athens and won a gold medal in the 200 meters. He soon became the world's most famous disabled athlete. At the 2008 Paralympics, Pistorius won gold medal in the 100, 200, and 400 meters, setting world records in all three categories. The Blade Runner, they called him. He also began competing against non-disabled athletes, but many critics complained that his carbon fiber blades gave him an unfair advantage. At the pinnacle of Pistorius' career, he competed at the 2012 London Olympics, so it was 1 year before Steenkamp got shot, becoming the first amputee to race in an Olympic track race, and he was chosen to carry South Africa's flag at the closing ceremony. So, he got paroled. Now, people on Twitter right now are not happy with Mr. Pistorius getting paroled. I'm reading the comments. For instance, if you just put in Oscar Pistorius in the Twitter search, you will see people already commenting on him getting paroled. Breaking. A terrible decision to parole Oscar Pistorius after just 9 years in prison for murdering Reeva. He will be out in January but must attend anger management therapy. What a joke. They have zero understanding of cohesive control. Her name was Reeva. And that was a hashtag. Now, 9 years, 13-year sentence. Well, half of 13 is 6.5 years. So their policy in South Africa is if you serve half your time, you get parole. 6.5 years. He served 9, so he served more than half. Do you think Mr. Pistorius should have served the entire time? The entire 13 years and 7 months, right? 13 years, 7 months? 13 years and 5 months. Do you think that he should have served the entire time? A lot of times in the United States of America, let me just share something with you in the United States of America law. Parole is not a guarantee for anyone. No one has a right to parole. You get a sentence. You're supposed to fulfill that sentence. It's an incentive to behave incarcerated, do what's right, and possibly get a parole, but it's not a right. For instance, if you're in prison in any state, I said Pennsylvania, any state in the United States, you get write-ups, in trouble, fights, don't go along with the programming. When you go up for parole, it is most likely you won't get parole. Another thing, too, in order to get parole, sometimes the parole board wants you to accept responsibility for what you did. And you actually have to admit what you did, even though you might think you're innocent. Apparently, Pistorius thinks he's innocent. But, folks, do you think Pistorius, when he went to the parole board, did he have to go to a parole board? Or did he have to just automatically get parole? And different countries, different rules. But did he have to actually go in front of a parole board and beg for mercy? Or, share what he's been up to? Has he gotten in any trouble while he's been in prison? Because if you get in any trouble whatsoever, you're most likely not getting parole. But who knows? Maybe some states, no matter what your behavior is, they give you an automatic parole. I believe in California, they have lots of issues dealing with their criminal justice system, and they just let people out, regardless of their behavior. But parole is not a guarantee.
South African...
Let me give you a new report by the Citizen Free Press in reference to Oscar Pistorius being granted parole.
South African former Paralympian Oscar Pistorius is set to be free from jail after being granted parole. Pistorius was jailed for shooting and killing his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp at home in Pretoria on Valentine's Day 2013. The once hero, known as the Blade Runner for his carbon fiber prosthetic legs, will be released on January 5th. After hearings that caught the world's attention a decade ago, Pistorius was initially jailed for 5 years in 2014 for culpable homicide by a high court. But in late 2015, the Supreme Court of Appeal found him guilty of murder after an appeal by prosecutors. He was sent back to jail for 6 years, less than half the minimum term sought by prosecutors. Then, in 2017, the Supreme Court more than doubled his sentence to 13 years and 5 months, saying the term originally handed down was shockingly lenient. The Steenkamp family did not attend Friday's hearing, although spokesperson Rob Matthews read out a message from Reeva's mother, detailing the toll the murder had had on the family.
I'm not attending Oscar's parole hearing, as I simply cannot muster the energy to face him again at this stage. Barry's demise has opened up the wounds in many ways caused by Reeva's death. I had forgiven Oscar long ago, as I knew most certainly that I would not be able to survive if I had to cling to my anger. I do not believe Oscar's version that he thought the person in the toilet was a burglar. In fact, I don't know anybody else who does.
What do you think? Looks like the family has forgiven him. Light sentence? Slap on the wrist? Some people say, hey, he served lots of time. So people across Twitter, they're kind of angry. I don't really see people justifying and saying what he did was okay. This is interesting here.
Come around, my lady. Stand there when I point out certain things that we have reality in this. And it's so important for our case and whatever may follow in this case, my lady. So I ask the court's permission. You can just take it to the exit. You can maybe just stand on my side where I can see when they're talking. We have to see rationality now in the context of sentence. And what we have, and these facts can be tested, just hold on to this. These are the distilled facts that can be tested. Let's look at who is the person. After.
Now look at that. The guy literally hardly can walk. Do you think handicapped people or people that have disabilities should be exempt from punishment of crimes? A lot of people said at the time when he was going through the courts there that he purposely walked without his legs and made people think to get wanted people to see his handicap in court to have sympathy over him. As some people use the handicap as a sympathy card, right? People think he was, I'm not saying he was faking it, I'm saying that he wanted to use that as a way to get sympathy. I don't know. Now this case has been, a while ago. It's been litigated a while ago. But he's out on parole. Now, what happens when he's on parole? Well, we don't know what happens in each country. But in the United States, if you make parole, you're going to have to see a parole officer regularly, maybe submit to urine tests, intense supervision where you have to explain where you're going at all times, what you're doing, what you're up to. Some require a job. Can he work? Will he have to work? Apparently he has to take some sort of anger management classes. So we'll see. Would he violate? Will he get sent back? Some people violate. You don't comply with the terms and conditions and the rules and regulations. you'll go back. Is Oscar Pistorius? We don't really know much about him. You know what I mean? To me, it seems like a mystery, kind of foreign mystery, of just a guy we've been seeing, similar to Vandersloot, you know, one of these criminals that have, it's a very high profile case. This was an international case. Some of the international cases in the United States I was thinking of that got big time publicity, but we don't really know much about the people just by what we see and hear. Oscar Pistorius, Vandersloot, Amanda Knox. Remember Amanda Knox? Some of these, what about the guy that was in prison in North Korea that they were parading around? What was his name? Do you guys remember his name? Some of these other international cases that make a lot of headlines. This was a big deal. This was like this case, the Oscar Pistorius case in South Africa was like the O.J. Simpson case in America. It was the biggest of the big. So I wanted to share this information with you guys. Let me know what you think. We'll be covering this, and we'll follow. Or we might never hear from him. Will he come out and share? Should he get a platform? Should he be able to compete again? Should, will he be back in the, will he speak on behalf of people with disabilities? Will he try to be a spokesman for somebody, for people, for a cause? Or will he just lay low, do his parole, and we never hear from him again? Is he the type of guy that likes the headlines? Does he want the attention? Will he use this as an opportunity to get financially rich? Will he work with movie production companies, documentaries? Truth said Roy Rage. Was he under, or what, did he do steroids? Was it a Roy Rage? What did he think? Somebody broke into his home? A lot of unknowns. He was fast. Cagney says, Christmas mug comes today. I can't wait to put it on my caramel macchiato in there. Caramel drink. Get yourself a mug. We drink coffee and stay tuned of what's going on. Thank you, Cagney. Thank you for getting a mug. Christmas time, folks. JLR. So, yeah, that's what's going on. I'll keep you informed of what's going on in reference to that. We'll see what happens. Oscar Pistorius. Praying for Reeva's family. I'm sure they didn't want to see him get out, though they forgive him. You guys have a good day. We'll talk soon. I got more videos coming out. More videos coming out. We work 24/7, 365. So, let me just read this comment here. American Meteorite fan says, disabled people have emotions too. Chronically ill can become manipulative because they can't control anything in their lives. Domestic violence can be a coping mechanism for helplessness. Thank you for sharing that, American Meteorite fan. You like meteorites? Sure. It's like something that's going across the sky in central United States next year in 2024, in like spring of 2024. I think it's like an eclipse or something like that. I think I'm going to go check that out. Happens in a few months from now. All right, we'll talk soon. Covering true crime 24/7, 365. I am out. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe. JLR investigates.